to the land again. Not too much change. It didn't rain at all, which is good because I left the tent uncovered accidentally. And I came back with some tools to do the Shou Sugi Ban method. Here's what's in flower now. And I've got some veggies finally growing. I notice everything here is growing at least 2 weeks or so later than everywhere else, and this is a slower season compared to 2 years ago. And I'm enjoying how I'm getting a steady pea harvest from the same plants. They seem to be doing better since I mulched them. It looks like I need to harvest my broccoli because it's going to flower. This is not how it's supposed to be, I think. So apparently this place got pretty dry. The outdoor tomatoes here dried out. Oh well, I really don't care too much. The more durable, the stronger survived. Late in the season, but I got my first round cucumber. These are when they're at their most perfect. Because then the skin gets too hard if you leave it on. They're so good. So here's what's eating in season. Now that I've got beets, I just, through my girlfriend, I discovered a cold, uncooked raw beet recipe where you shred the beets, you mix it with something sour, some acid, some salt, a little bit of oil, and mustard, and it's a really good salad. And otherwise here I've got my first broccoli, some beans, and onions. So everything's from within a kilometer. And by everything, I mean everything but the condiments. So it's been about a week without any rain, which is good for starting the bonfire. So I can't find a blowtorch anywhere, so I'm gonna use this log as a test to burn the end. And let's get started. So now to make a bonfire. And be careful not to start a forest fire. So this might be difficult just by myself, but here's the idea. To burn the sides of this and flip it and burn about a meter or so. This seems to be working pretty well. Nice. Might not need a blowtorch after all. So it turns out this works pretty well. I got it pretty well burnt. Now the next part is cleaning it all off before applying the linseed oil. So this is Shou Sugi Ban when you can't get your hands on a blowtorch. The most important thing is to get all of the burnt crap off so that the end looks like this. In the end, you're left with something that looks like this. The last thing, I just need to find a finer brush to get these corners, and then it's ready to be painted with linseed oil. It works so well, I'm going to try to do this big one. While that fire is getting started, I want to take a look at this garden. Got the miner's lettuce, which is going to flower. And these beets are growing so big, so fast. Soon this will be all covered. Sweet! Identify this plant. And here I'm wrapping up the second one. Just about done burning. I can start scrubbing. Pretty cool. It takes a while, but I got 2 done. And screw it. I'm just gonna burn one more and clean it up tomorrow. Voila. I'm dirty as hell. But I got half them done. It's mid-September, and I'm noticing the days are getting a lot cooler, which I'm really happy about because the summer was just too hot. And so I could do some work on the house, but during the daytime, I still feel I want to run away to the computer to do some work. So lately, I've been doing updates on the house design. I submit my designs to a permaculture forum, permies.com, and there I get some feedback about what is missing or things to think about in the house, because the last design of the roof does not allow for cross ventilation. So I'm opting for a gable style roof, which is moving away from the rounded shapes which I was originally hoping for. However, it's the only way I can think of to fit solar panels. So I'm leaving again today to a festival with a lot of workshops. So not too much new here this past week. The ginkgo and the chestnut, I wonder what this means on the leaves. I've been watering them. Maybe they're missing some sort of microelements. Otherwise, I'm going to go transplant these acacias and this basil somewhere in the forest garden. So let's get over there. Here's an update on the green manures that I planted maybe a week and a half ago already. Some here, growing pretty well here, and this whole stretch is full of them. Cool. Interesting to note how this acacia spreading its roots. Really wanted to expand out of this. I'm gonna plant it here. So I planted 3 acacias, the biggest one here, as well as each patch has some basil. There's a basil there, one basil there, another basil there. Ah, no, the biggest acacia is here. Basil there, a tiny acacia here, some basil there, one basil tucked away there, and the last 2 patches there and there next to the islands. We'll see where they survive the best. Yesterday I burned 2 more these ends, and as the designs are looking, it looks like I will only need 4 of them. The design is switching more to a box style gable with corners, 4 corners, and I will have a roof or something to cover out at the edge where the ovals stick out. Otherwise, yesterday I got called on to help a friend, so I didn't make any process with the rubble trench. This is where it stands. As for this bean structure, I tied it up a week ago, and it's finally starting to produce the flowers and the first beans. And here I planted, what are these again? And they're growing okay here. I think they'd grow better if there were other plants to smother out these weeds. It's also not collecting water, so I should maybe make a ridge for water collection until the roots get deep into the center of the hugel kultur. So I'm all packed up, ready to go until next week. So I just biked back to the land. This is becoming a routine. It looks like the first rain clouds in 2 or 3 weeks. It's a serious drought now, and I'm sure, I have a feeling, a lot of things have dried out. A lot of my things are dying and from the drought. I'm glad that I don't really give a crap this year. It's not as much of a focus. It would be nice if it stayed alive. However, it's good to see what is surviving. It's less effort. It's good to know for future years. For example, collard greens. I haven't had to water them too much. They're not getting attacked as much as the other broccoli plants. Caterpillars, which are eating my broccoli, and some aphids. But, woo! It's the first rain in weeks! It's pretty light. However, things in the greenhouse have dried up quite a bit as well. I am battling with... And this grew from seed this year. That's crazy how much an apple can grow in a year. Whereas many of the other apples are not growing too big. What's fun is that I didn't even plant these potatoes. I planted the garlics, most of which I've harvested, and as a result, I'm getting a few potatoes from all over here. Here's the root. Not much from a single plant. I got this many potatoes, but considering I didn't plant it, I'm not complaining. So I'm back to trying to make some progress on the house. I'm still finalizing the designs and how to put the poles together. I was advised to make tenons and mortises to connect the main poles, the corners of the house. And I'm realizing with all of this, I need a workbench. I need an area where I can create the tenons or cut the tenons out of the pole ends. And right now I don't have any of that, which makes this whole process slower. So I'm gonna think where in this area I could create a work area. My trusty saw, I just cleared out this whole area. I envision a workbench here. It's partially covered by trees. Next is to gather materials. Contemplating what could I make from the trees that I already have here. There's some growing in patches that are growing in straight lines. Or another thing I could do is to trim the tops of some of these trees, which would also allow for more sunlight. If you haven't noticed, it's not in the garden. It's the top of that tree. I cut it down. That's how I did it. I never tried climbing a birch before, but I'd like to try to clean it up and see if I can get to the top and cut off a branch. With a saw, I just cleared up a pathway up to the cross point where I want to cut it. Here I am up in the tree with my hammer, chisel, and saw, and I'm gonna try to level this birch tree out right here. Here I've got a stable hold, both legs on lower branches, and I think I'll be able to hold on like this. Though a small wedge, I figure it's better than no wedge at all. Now I'm gonna cut from this side. There, the wind just blew. I opened the wedged up, and this whole side opened up. So let's try sawing from here now. Whoa, I sawed for 10 seconds. It started leaning over, and it fell. Nice. Now to do that with this one. I acknowledge that what I'm trying to do is dangerous and could be reckless if you're not careful. That's why I'm saying if you do follow in these footsteps, to take precautions. And I'm no specialist, but I know that this should always point away from you. And if the wind is blowing, check that it's not blowing whatever you're chopping onto you. So I've got this about as far away from me as possible. Now I'm gonna chop from this side. And voila, with that much of a cut and a little bit of a push, the rest of that tree fell exactly where I wanted it to. And cool, I might be able to make a little seat here and have a little observatory over the place. I have an elevated perch for myself right now. I can sit on these two and watch what's happening. I'm gonna clear some more of these branches so that more sun will get to the garden from here. There, I just cleaned off the top half of that tree. I've got all of this pile and everything that fell over there. So from here, I'm gonna see what could I use to make a workbench. I'm starting the morning off with machete and hammer, and I'm going to try to build a workbench. And it's not going to be a workbench for carpentry. It'll be more for fashioning log ends. So I might even end up cutting one of the trees down on my land. And I'll have to bring it over and fit it, cut the ends and clean it up for the house. I just transplanted an oak tree and a maple tree over out of the workspace. And I cut down another branch here. I think this could make a good form for supporting it here. So I think I want the logs around this height. Got it around the right depth. And it's a good thing I've got a mound of rocks to secure it. So when it comes to as simple as it gets, I can use this tree. However, if I'm using a bigger log, that might not be as comfortable. So Here I secure these down with rocks. I still would like an add support here to match the weight here. Otherwise it's holding. You want to see what I built? Voila. So this is less sturdy, obviously, than this. I intentionally didn't make another light one like that just because I want to also get some real logs and have my table have actual weight so that I can move it, and so that I want to always have some logs here to stabilize this downwards. So the thinking with this workbench, it's so measly and primitive, it will make it easier to make a better workbench. Now I can do what I need to do with these logs. I will have to cut them and cut tenons out of them. Cool. That's how it looks. So I'm back to work, finishing up cleaning out these logs with a tighter brush. The previous one couldn't get the corners. Now I'm ready to apply the linseed oil. So it'll need 2 coatings. The first one will take a day to dry, and the same for the next one. Voila, I got the first layer on. Tomorrow I can do the next layer, and then I gotta do this for 3 more. This was a heavy pain in the butt to move centimeter by centimeter, but now I can get 2 done. There, I just finished coating the second one, so I can finish coating them tomorrow and move forward. So I'm away from the camera quite a bit. It's been 2 days since the last update, and yesterday I did the same thing I did the day before, which was adding a second layer of coat onto the logs. And I need to do this with 2 more logs. There's these 2 logs which I plan to use, but before I do so, I want to make sure that these ends are impregnated good. It looks like it could use a bit more of a burning. And also here, I positioned these 3 remaining logs so that I can burn all of their unburned surfaces with a single little fire. In there. I want to be careful that this does not become a bigger fire. There, I forgot to add some needles to it. That gets it started. So I want you to burn elsewhere. Oh, this is trickier. Maybe if I could make a fireball stick, I could blow with my breath onto the fire. It's a fun game. Trying to burn the side of my log. I just made a contraption to angle the fire against the walls. So I imagine this should be more effective than what I was doing before. I would say this little fire was very effective. I burned this end, you're done, and I burnt you here. So now I got the rest of the logs burnt. I got these 2 down, and I can oil another one up. So these logs are pretty freaking big, and I'm just me. So I'm gonna see with some rope how I can get these over there with less back stress. So luckily with the grass, I'm realizing it's possible to move this with 2 hands. See if I can do it with 1 hand, just by tugging and just tugging it slowly. It's a lot easier than what I tried last time, which was just breaking my back, bringing it over. And I think I can find a use for this rope to make a pulley to lift the logs onto that end. It would make life a lot easier. Here you'll see the before and after of this wood. When you burn this, you get this. And then when you apply 2 coatings of linseed oil, you get this black color. I'm really happy I have this workbench now. It's a bit flimsy in some ways, but I'm confident that it holds the weight well. If I added some screws in, I think it would be way sturdier. Now I need to go back to clean off these edges that I burned and apply another coat. I used a 0.9 liters to double coat these two and almost completely finish this first coat of this one, so I need a lot more of this. So I need some more logs for the cross construction, so I'm measuring about 3 meters between both these long poles. To make it easier, I laid these flags where I plan to have these 4 poles. I will measure them from here now. Lengthwise, the front is about 2.5 meters. The length of this is 280 log to log, and these I will definitely have to make a bit longer for the roof. From the log being here to here is about 280, so 280, 280, 280. So these are about 20 some. So I decided I'm gonna harvest this tree. It's shaded out by all the other trees and doesn't have much of a future, and I could use it right now. However, I'm thinking, what if I dig out more of the roots? I might have more to build with. So I'm gonna try to win some centimeters on this log by cutting the pieces out and seeing what I'm left with. I've had a fruitful day hanging out with friends on this Sunday. So they've left. I came back with a bunch of vegetables from the neighbor's garden, and I'm back to trying to dig the tree out like yesterday. I'm back to this project. I noticed that this makes a pretty good digging tool to clear sand away, and I already spent like an hour using my saw, the hammer and chisel, and this power tool to get rid of the roots one by one. Soon I think I'll be able to push it over. So I dug out quite a bit, and this tree is starting to move a little bit. I might need all my force to get it with both. 2 people I think would easily get this out. She's already bending. It wants to fall this way. I want to see if I can pull it this way so that I can tug it by the root end. The tree is already falling. Oh yeah. All right, timber. Oh. And this is what I'm left with. Whew, that was quite a bit of work for some 50 centimeters. But I might be able to use this as a corner piece. So I take it this tree is about 12 years old. I cleaned off all the branches and I threw it here. And the tree is about 10 meters tall to the tip. Although it only provides, I could probably use 6 meters of it for building. An observation regarding growing peas. I noticed as soon as these peas got full sunlight, once I cut down these swades, they started drying out a lot more compared to these other peas which have been semi-shaded, and they're not as thick. They're giving some, they're not giving as many. So if there's a good middle combo between not needing to water them as much as these other peas, because they dry out and they don't give as many of these fruit. And if they don't get enough sun, they're very slow to produce fruit. Otherwise, my purple broccoli is starting to sprout. It's very tiny. It didn't grow up this season. And right about now, the cucumbers are starting to give fruit. And same, I got the first tomato a couple days ago. So it takes a while for them to mature, especially in this land. Everything seems to come 2 weeks later. So here are these Colorado bugs, which eat potatoes. There's not many left. Yesterday was the first real rain in a long time, and it was really there were very few mosquitoes lately, and some of them have returned now. It's not as bad as it was before, but I'm still lazy and I don't feel like swatting, so I'm getting dressed up. And I made pancakes for the first time in a while. It's a lot of oats. It's zucchini season, so I'm making pancakes with zucchini, a few tomatoes, 1 apple, some rye flour, and salt and coconut oil. Monday morning, and we got a ton of rain last night again. I'm really happy I won't have to be watering these plants because they got soaked through. These look so vibrant once more. Yeah, everything here really needed it.